So I sold my beautiful M5 after owning it for a little less than a year. It's not that there's anything wrong with this car, which is why I'm getting rid of it. I just get bored with cars so easily that I have this addiction of having to continuously cycle through them. And that's why I only stick with used cars, because with new cars, if I keep buying and selling, well, you know how that story ends. I love buying, owning, and selling used cars, but I also like to not be homeless. If I were to do the same thing with new cars that I do with used cars, this is probably where I'd be living, right next to my car. No thank you, I'd rather not be spending the rest of my life in a parking garage. My goal with this M5 and any used car that I purchase is to buy, own it for a few months, really enjoy it, and then sell it. And so the time came for me to get rid of it, and I have. But during the time that I did own this car, it was a great experience. I've owned multiple M5s in the past, and this one's been one of my favorites. This car hasn't been entirely problem-free, and if you haven't seen this video, check it out where I talk about everything that I did to it and how much money I spent on this one. My goal with owning cars like this is to try not to spend so much money where I regret the purchase. So I try to find really good examples of used cars that don't need a lot of work after I buy them. And this way, I don't end up losing a ton of money, and I did lose some on this M5, but thankfully it wasn't a whole lot. In some cases, if you time it just right and you pick the right kind of car to buy, you could make money buying and selling them. My goal is not to become a used car dealer. My goal is just to enjoy these cars and not go bankrupt in the process, which thankfully so far I haven't. This car has been primarily my weekend driver, or the car that I take for late night runs to the grocery store for ice cream. My favorite aspects about this car is this magical V8 and the way it handles and tackles turns. This M5 isn't the fastest M5 ever, but it's such a good combination of being just quick enough and also giving you an unbelievable driving experience. That's what makes owning cars like this worth it. Even though it's 21 years old, 122,000 miles, there's really not many cars today that you can drive that can provide you this kind of an experience. Today's cars are way too refined, so quiet, completely unlike this one. It's got the V8 noise, a manual 6-speed, you're actually doing something, and incredible handling. The proportions on this car are just right. It's not too big, it's the right size sedan to make it very nimble and agile on the roads. The stock M5 ride is not too bad, but with aftermarket suspension on this, with the KW coilovers, it's just too stiff for most people. There's another problem to consider. This car is 20 years old, and 20-year-old aged leather in these BMWs doesn't smell good, and no amount of air freshener is gonna get rid of it. If you happen to be buying one of these, just don't buy it sight unseen. Make sure your nose can tolerate it. But then whatever problems you might have with the car, all those problems immediately disappear as soon as you get in and start the engine. The reason that this car is my late night ice cream run car is because any excuse that I have to drive this thing, I'll take it. I'll even make up excuses to go drive this car. The 6-speed manual, all of that noise coming in from the V8 engine, and this pure analog driving experience with this great handling, it has all of the ingredients to make it such a fun car to drive. And even if you don't get from 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye, this car is ultimately not about the straight line speed. It's about the combination of everything, and the way that this can handle turns. It's so poised and so stable, and you don't even have to be that great of a driver to really enjoy driving this. Some cars you need to have a lot of skills for you to have fun with it. With this one, anybody can get in and enjoy it. What I find hard to believe is that even at 21 years old, 122,000 miles, when you start driving it, you don't think about the age or the mileage because it's almost as good as it was way back when. And for most cars that are that old, they're probably one step away from the junkyard. Not this M5. This one has plenty more miles left in it. And that's what you feel when you drive it. Subconsciously, you can feel just how well built this car is. This M5 has such a loyal fan base. It's got a community of enthusiasts, and this car is basically going from one enthusiast to another. I, in fact, sold this car to another enthusiast, And only the M5 fans will really understand why these cars are still worth as much as they are and why they're likely to keep going up in value. For anybody that doesn't get it, they will think that this is such a waste of money to spend on a 21-year-old car with 122,000 miles. I can honestly say that I've enjoyed driving this car during the entire time that I've owned it. One thing's for sure, they will never make another car like this again. As much as I enjoyed driving and owning this car, I realized through the process of ownership that I probably don't want to own a car that's this old. Don't get me wrong, this car has been extremely reliable and I've had a lot of fun owning it. But when you have a car that's a couple decades old, you always have to do a bunch of maintenance on it, and a lot of it's preventative too. Especially with these older M5s, if you don't catch the problems quick enough and take care of it right away, they're easily going to balloon into huge long-term ownership costs. And before you know it, you're out thousands of dollars, way more than the car might even be worth today. And more than the actual cost of the repairs is the time. You have to set aside time Monday through Friday, go to the shop, schedule appointments, get a ride, figure out all the logistics. It can be a huge pain. Unless you enjoy working on cars and you like to tinker on these things on the weekends, this car really isn't suitable for somebody like me who absolutely wants nothing to do with repairs. I'm the exact opposite of a DIY guy. I just like looking at these things for their beauty and driving them for the pure thrill of it. But if you need to go to a shop like I do with this car, it's only open Monday through Friday, which means it's going to take away time from your workday. None of these shops are open Saturday and Sunday, which is actually when I do have time. And the shop that I like to take this car to is a 40-minute drive away from my house. I guess you live and learn through these experiences, and I've learned that 20 years old is just way too old for me. And so I'm glad that my time with this beauty has come to an end because I just don't have any more time to take this one to the shop. But I have no complaints about this car whatsoever. It delivered exactly the things that I was looking for, and this has been one of my favorite cars that I've owned. Whatever I get next, I hope it's a little bit younger and a little less high maintenance. And no, I'm not talking about women. Also, with these kinds of cars, there's always that thought in the back of your mind, what if something catastrophic happens? If you take care of it, the chances of something going wrong are low, but still, it could happen at any time. And the last thing I need is to be stranded on the side of the road with a broken M5. I don't think that will happen with this car, but hey, you never know.